Dennis.
Right there.
Well, I'm excited to have Bree here with us from Echoes, especially after Saturday. I thought it was very timely to bring her in and talk to us. She earned her bachelor's in human development and family studies from Penn State University, where she completed a legislative fellowship with the PA House of Representatives and the Aging and Older Adult Services Committee. This experience inspired her interest in pursuing a Master of Public Administration from Penn State University. Bree began her professional experience in the direct service, but transitioned to macro-focused work as a medical advocate for survivors of domestic and sexual violence, and as an executive director of a nonprofit senior community. She's now been with Echoes, I believe she told me 3 years. I'm excited for her to come tell us what's happening there.
Thanks for having me. It's been maybe a year or more since I've done this group for Rotary. So thanks for having me back. All right, so does anyone here know how many programs Echoes currently operates? Less. More. 8. Correct. Do you know how many of those 8 programs operate year-round? 7, yes. So I like to start with this because I feel like we are most known for the Elizabethtown Emergency Shelter, but that's the only program that's not year-round. So we have 7 programs going year-round where we are repeatedly serving individuals and families. We do serve beyond Elizabethtown, Bainbridge, Reams, Mountjoy, Maytown, Marietta. There are a few of our programs that we serve the entire county, but we're typically prioritizing those from the Northwest region of Lancaster County. We tend to serve around 800 unduplicated households a year. Unduplicated individuals a year. So I believe last year we were around a little bit over 850. So we were incorporated in 2016, so we're about almost 7 years old. Still relatively new as an organization, but we've done a lot in those years. Most recently, the move to the expanded building on the Community Place on Washington complex, and we actually have another project that's coming to a close that you may have helped with on Saturday. So I'll talk a little bit more about that expansion. We also recently changed our mission statement. We really wanted to pull out the demographics that we're serving, which are those who are either housing insecure or homeless. And we serve those people in many ways. One of the things that we find most important is making connections to other community providers so that we can holistically serve the multiple needs that people come to us with. So in terms of the people that we serve, we are typically required by our government grants to serve a certain definition of homelessness. So for us, homelessness means that people are residing in a place not meant for human habitation. So that could be on the streets, that could be in their cars, that could be in an encampment. It cannot be doubled up living on somebody's couch. That's couch surfing. And while we might think of that as being not having a place of your own homeless, that's not what HUD recognizes as homelessness. The other category that we typically serve are those who are at imminent risk of homelessness. That means that they have an eviction notice that's been served to them, or they don't know where they're going to be in the next week. So we have pretty rigid parameters in who we can serve in some of our programs, not all of them, but a majority of them. So that's really kind of the group that we're focusing on. And then additionally, looking at people who have insufficient income, so typically it could be like below 200% of the federal poverty income guidelines or something like that. So we have those 8 programs that fall in those 4 categories that you see on the PowerPoint. Last year we served 883 unduplicated clients across those programs, and we provided more than 3,000 hours of one-on-one time with clients. So when we look at the value of that, it's more than $270,000 that we don't charge to the clients that we spend time with. I like to point this out because a lot of times when you're seeking funding, places don't want to fund operating costs, which is a lot of the time salaries and wages. But for us, a majority of our salaries and wages are those of the staff who are one-on-one with our clients. So I like to kind of point that out because I think it's more impactful than you would see if you're looking at a financial statement. We have 4 housing programs. 3 of those are serving people who are currently experiencing that homelessness that I talked about where you're on the street. The one where we kind of open up our definition is the Homestead Housing Program. It's actually our newest program. It opened up and was running in early 2022. That program is serving older adults, those 55 years and older, with preferences to veterans and those with disabilities. That is on the 2nd floor of the new building, the 105 East Washington Street. We serve about 13 households, and around half have been veterans. So that's a program very near and dear to my heart, and we've changed a lot of lives so far in that program. So the rest of our programs range from very short-term housing. It can be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, up to multiple years. So for the Bridge House 90 project, which is what Rotary just helped with, we are serving families up to 6 months in that program, and they really have to be ideal for, not be ideal for a shelter setting. So that could be because there's kids, that could be because there's a disability. And then our permanent supportive housing program is serving families that have a chronic disability in the family for at least a year minimum. So that's 100% rental subsidy if there's no income and intensive case management. So with every single one of our programs, there could be rental subsidy involved, but there is also case management because throwing money at a problem doesn't solve some of the deeper issues there. So we are always walking alongside people to try to address the other factors that could be contributing to their instability. Another category of program that we have is prevention diversion. So this is typically where you would see eviction prevention. We can serve people in multiple ways through that program. So again, case management. If you are not spending within your budget, if we give you $1,500 towards your rent, you're going to be in the same situation. So we're partnering the one-on-one case management with financial assistance. One of the downsides of this program from our perspective when operating it is that grant funds only allow us to give families $1,500 in a 2-year period. So with the cost of rent, that does not go very far, and $1,000 for adult-only households. So this is a program where we are always seeking additional funds because if we are going to help with back owed rent or current rent, or somebody knows they're going to be out of work for the next month because they have an injury, that doesn't go very far in making a dent. This is the one program where we have seen skyrocket. Not surprised with ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, being finished within the county. So we significantly overspent this budget for rental assistance through this program last year, and we have seen that trend continue this year. We have 2 programs that we consider information and referrals. That's our enrichment center, which is a drop-in center. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 to 3, anybody can come in and they can get help with a variety of things. It could be housing searches, it could be job searches, it could be connections with community partners. So we work really hard to bring partnering agencies in to have office hours there. Currently, we have CareerLink, Blueprints, which is drug and alcohol support, and we also have the Naaman Center, which is additionally drug and alcohol support. We have workshops where we can bring banks in to do budgeting workshops. We bring other providers in to do how to be a good renter. We also have a new partnership with a medical provider to be able to do prescriptions, basic physicals, exams, things like that. So this is the place where we like to think of as a one-stop shop. You can come in, you can do something as simple as grab some to-go food items off our cart, and that's all the interaction you have for the day. Or it could be somebody who comes in every single week and they're looking for a job or they're looking for a house. The other program that we consider information and referrals is coordinated assessment. This is a county-wide program that is plugged into 211, if you've heard about that. 211 is like 911 for human services. So if anybody is homeless, street-level homeless, they have to get this assessment done. This assessment tells us how many barriers they have to being housed, and it allows us to make the appropriate referral either to ourselves or to another agency. So this is something that we're doing anytime somebody walks in our doors and says that they are homeless from our area. And finally, the Elizabethtown Emergency Shelter. We are, I want to say, in our ninth season for this. We are running through April 5th, 2024 this year. So we are not quite 2 months in. We've seen 50 unduplicated people so far. All of our family rooms are full. We did set up an additional family room for flexibility, but we're not increasing our census of 42. But yeah, we started off very slow. We only had a few people, but our bed nights right now are at about 31. So we're around 10 to 11 off of our max capacity at not quite 2 months in. So the need the last 3 years has just grown exponentially, which you'll see when I get to a slide on our bed nights. And I don't see this trend going down. We have more people who are homeless in the county than ever. So these are the bed nights. So as you can see, we dropped really low during COVID, and that's because there were a lot of protective factors in place for people who were at risk of homelessness or experiencing homelessness. Those were the dollars that were getting paid out. That was ERAP. That was putting people in hotels, trying to keep people, if they did have a house, there were a lot of protective factors in place to keep them housed. As soon as that started to peel back, people went right back into homelessness. They recidivated. So as you can see in the 21-22 season, what it doesn't show is that we extended for an additional month, which we did not do in 22-23, and we still beat the bed nights without an additional month of operating. So right now I would say we're on trend to be right up there in the high 2000s of bed nights. So for us, a bed night is one person per night, and you count how many people per night times the number of days that you operate. So specifically in the shelter, there's a few ways where we can receive support. I think we emphasize shelter not only because I think it's the easiest to envision, but also because it requires the most resources. Even though it only operates for 4 months, there's a lot that goes into it, and it is a very expensive program to operate without a lot of resources available to us. We compete very heavily through the county and the state to get funds. We only get about $40,500 in government grant funds for shelter, which is about 1 month of operating. So I understand why we get this question frequently, but I hate answering it, which is why we don't operate year round. And there's a lot of reasons why, but there really just is not funding, and funding is getting more and more competitive. They're trying to expand shelters in the city, which means that more dollars are going to be pulled away from other providers. Some things that are unique about our shelter is that we're one of the only emergency shelters, if not the only emergency shelter, that offers private family space. So if a family were to go to Columbia Shelter, there's no kids allowed there. So they would not be able to go. And for us, we're able to keep families together, which I think is really impactful. So these are some of the ways. Right now, we're really looking for volunteers. We've been light on the weekends, so if you have some availability to volunteer on the weekends, that would be wonderful. These are the various volunteer opportunities. I'm going to go over them in more detail, but this is just a snapshot. So evening volunteers, we need about 3 to 6 volunteers a night. For every shift, we do have a staff person, except for two mornings. But beyond that, evenings, overnights, and 5 days of the week, we have staff on site to help assist. So evening volunteers come from 6 to 9 p.m. and they're helping with things like security checks and serving meals. And you do need your clearances anytime you're going to be working with clients. We do require clearances. They are free, and if you lived in Pennsylvania for the last 10 years, you do not have to get your FBI clearance. You can just sign an affidavit for us. So it is a bit of a process to sign up, but once you get into it, clearances are good for 5 years, so you don't have to do it every single year. Overnight volunteers, I'm happy to say that we've reached a point where overnight volunteers can sleep as long as there's not an emergency. So we have a private volunteer room with a bed and a few other amenities for you, and we pay a staff person to stay awake. So if you're looking for somewhere else to sleep and you want some peace, come to us. Typically, we're just looking for one overnight volunteer. morning volunteers coming in from 6 to 8:30 a.m., waking guests up, helping them select breakfast items and making sure they get out of the door timely. This I did a lot my first year at Echoes. I did almost every weekend morning, and it's really nice. I enjoy interacting with the guests. So again, there's a shift for everybody. If you're a night owl or a early morning person. And hot and ready meals. We've never really had an issue with this before, but we're finding ourselves with less people signing up for hot and ready meals. So for this, you cook food at home, bring it into the shelter between 6 and 6:30 p.m. and we serve it that night. Carrie, who is our community engagement coordinator, connects with you if you're looking to do that to let you know what our current census is. So it's very different cooking for 15 versus 30. So we let our volunteers who sign up for this know. This does not require clearances because you would not be interacting with any clients. And finally, cleaning volunteers. So we do this on Mondays and Wednesdays. If you're available during the day and find cleaning to be peaceful, we are always looking to keep the shelter clean. We have a lot of bodies in there and just want to make sure that we keep the space clean. So in general, these are the different types of donation opportunities. We've really tried to expand the way that we can partner with different groups or people. So one of those would be hosting events. We love if you're creative and you want to hold an event for us, whether that's independently or want us to be present. Some things that we've done, I believe MUDOC has done events for us where if you buy a beer for the month, we get $1 of the proceeds. The Spot has done that as well. In-kind donations, I will say that December we have received quite a many donations for the shelter, so we're good for a little while, but probably in another quarter we'll go through all of those donations and need them again. So a lot of the time it's shelf-stable food, water bottles. We do have an Amazon wish list, so I believe on the ways to get involved there should be a QR code, the paper that you have, and you can check that out. Shelter drives, which are donations specifically for our shelter, although we do use food and other donations in many of our programs. And of course, financial donations. We'll never turn down $1. I also wanted to just highlight that we are coming up on our 3rd annual Echoes of Hope Gala. This year, we changed both the time that it's occurring. So we used to have it in the fall, but we've moved it to the spring this year, and we've also moved the location. So we are going to be at Masonic Village in the Brosnan Ballroom, and we're really excited about that. So hopefully you can attend. I think we are hoping to have invitations sent out in February. Hannah, is that right? February? Yeah. We are still looking for some sponsors. So if you are interested, we have various levels of sponsorship, I believe ranging from $1,000 up through $10,000 or $15,000 signature donor is secured. I think we are looking for a $2,500 speaker sponsor. So we have Kevin Ressler coming, who used to be the former CEO of the United Way of Lancaster County, who will be speaking at the event. So we have a lot of fun things planned. I know I have to say it's fun, but I really do think it's fun. And we need some new winners for the Champagne and Diamonds and the raffle because my parents won 2 years in a row and people are starting to think that it's rigged. So they're not winning this year. It's just not happening. I'm putting it back. I'm putting the names back in and picking somebody else if it happens. So I believe tickets this year are increasing to $150. And yeah, it's a great event. If you've been, that's great. Please come back. And if you haven't, we'd like to have you at this one. So this is our contact information. If you need that, just let me know. I can also, we brought some business cards. And questions for me? Yes. Sorry.
You tie in with the United Way?
Do we work with the United Way?
Yes.
Yeah, we actually, we have a lot of formal and informal partnerships. They also provide a small amount of funding for us through our enrichment center. They operate 211, which is another avenue in which we get referrals for some of our programs. Yeah. Yes.
2 questions.
Yeah.
How long can the families stay there? And the second question is, do you have families that, like you said, under rotation, but they keep coming back at different times?
Yes. So are you talking about how long they stay for our shelter specifically? So we don't put a time limit for anybody in our shelter. So as long as the shelter is open, people can stay as long as we have beds available. We have never hit capacity yet. We've been one bed away from reaching capacity, I believe, last year. So we haven't gotten to that point yet. And we do not turn people away if they come back on a cycle. So that is something that you tend to see. That is what we would consider chronically homeless if we see someone in a 3-year period hit homelessness a certain amount of times. So we have different levels of need, but that is not uncommon. And we would accept them back.
How long would a typical person stay, or what's the longest?
So it really depends how many barriers they have to reaching permanent housing. You have some people who hit a stretch of bad luck and don't need a lot. They can self-resolve. And you have other people who have been homeless for some period of time and need a lot of supports and may not even reach that during the shelter season or even a few months. So we're battling things like eviction records, poor credit, no income. And so it takes time to kind of work through those things, but that is what the case management is there. So as long as people are engaging with us, we will continue case management to work towards getting them a permanent housing solution. Yeah.
Do you have a number in mind in order to go year-round with the shelter? Any idea how much more money that would take?
Bare bones, I would say it's about $800,000. With the appropriate staffing, which you're going to want because of the high level of need that we see in there, it would probably rival our annual budget for all 8 programs. So over $1 million. Yes.
Do you have any idea of where they go when the winter shelter is not active? Like Lancaster or Harrisburg or?
Yep. So we have a few different destinations typically that people go to. Some go to Columbia Shelter. So we have a little bit of an arrangement with them. We don't open up our eligibility except for in the event that somebody can't go to Columbia Shelter because they take our shelter guests when we're not operating because they go year round. Some will go to the city. Others will be enrolled in our programs and continue to work with us towards housing. So they might temporarily be discharged back to homelessness, but then would still be working towards a housing goal and then eventually will be placed in housing. Others will be housed during the season. Some self-resolve, so they go back in with family and friends, take them back in. So there's a variety of destinations. Some people go into a facility they could get want treatment. So we see a lot of different destinations. Yes.
So at the center, you've got the top floor, which are more like apartments.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many can you house there? And then you have the lower level that is the overnight shelter.
Yep.
Correct. How many can you take in there?
Okay.
And then you have 4 families in the building that we
Mm-hmm.
just did.
Yep, so we have 10 units on campus. In the building that Rotary helped with, there are 4 2-bedroom apartments. So again, really intended for families or those with disabilities. The second floor is that homestead housing program, so that's for older adults with preferences to veterans. Those are 4 1-bedroom units and 2 efficiency suites. So we have 10 apartments total, various sizes. And then in the shelter, we have a 42-bed capacity. And then the rest of our programs, we have people housed in the community. So for permanent supportive housing, for example, we have 5 households. They're all housed, and they're in various places across the county, and we're continuing to work with them. So you might not see all of the households we're serving. Some of them could be in the community, and some of them are on campus. Yeah, go ahead. I can stick with you.
Stay with me. When we were there on Saturday and we were unpacking and putting some things away, you know, like there might be a colander but no pan, like cooked spaghetti or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a list of things that you need to finish furnishing those 4 apartments that we worked in? Like I saw a toaster in one but not
Mm-hmm.
in another. You know, and I just looked on your Amazon wish list,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have any like household stuff like that on there. Is there a list of things that you would need to finish getting those set up?
I can let you know. I'm pretty sure that we have everything that we need. So we're sourcing from a few different areas. So you guys were step 1. We also, utilize a donation center here in town where we have the remaining furniture and household items. So that is step 2. I'm going to be having a moving company bring that, the appliances and things in. And then we had to order a few other appliances, but we should be good with those items. But if we find that there are any gaps in anything, I can, and you guys are interested and feel.
I'd be happy to send out an email to the
Okay.
club, you know, if you had a certain list of things, say that you needed certain things. And then a final thing is a comment. When we were working there on Saturday and going between the large, whatever you call it, the new one, the new building.
Oh, yeah.
And we started right when the shelter closed,
Mhm.
so people were coming out.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you saw, one woman just came out with her blanket,
Mhm.
wrapped up in her blanket, went over and sat on the bench. And that's where she sat the whole time we were there.
She's actually she's probably a resident.
And it's just,
But-
I couldn't do what you do, because I'd want to take, well, maybe some of them, but, the smokers, no. But, you know, God bless you for doing what you do. It's a shame that it's needed, but there's a place in heaven for people like you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we it is very hard to say no in this field, and we've had to have some increasingly tough conversations about that, because if we don't have a no, we're not going to be able to say yes for years in advance. So that is a very hard decision. That's why a lot of people who work in this field get what we call empathy fatigue. So they're doing this and working with people, and you're hearing these stories, and it's 8 hours a day of hearing these stories, and it can be very taxing emotionally on those who are working directly with clients. So yeah, it is tough to balance it all. So thank you. Glenn?
So a lot of us have seen the whole, you know, the birth of Echoes all the way from there. And the whole way around, it's been very done very professional. I'm sure there's been hiccups, you know, like any organization, but from the outside, it just always looks like you guys have your act together. I know you have a great board of directors, and I have a comment about that.
Yeah.
So, so I'm asked once in a while, you know, can you provide a dumpster for this? Or
Yeah.
whatever. No problem, we do that. And it's we facilitate it. It's kind of waste or it's waste management. Somebody else that's technically doing it. Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. But I was asked to send a dumpster down to a place in Maytown. You guys were cleaning out the place, and I don't remember the staff member who called me, but they said, "Yeah, those are going to be 3 of our board members down there to clean the place out." And I said, "Oh, who's going to be down there?" Kevin, McCurdy, and
Joe.
Joe Murphy. And I said, "Well, who the hell's doing the work?" McCurdy brought his son. That's what happened. So Ben was there, so everything got taken care of. I just had to laugh at it. He said, like, you got 3 supervisors with suits jumping in the dumpster. But it's nice that that everybody that's involved with the organization from the top down is involved.
Oh yeah.
And your galas are a lot of fun. If you've never been there, that is definitely worth the price to go. And it's fun. It's an engaging. It's just as fun as the chamber. You've been at the chamber. So I think
Yeah, what Glenn said.
You do a very good job with that gala.
Thank you.
How many Rotary clubs in the county participate in your programs?
I just a couple of months ago spoke to Mount Joy Rotary, but I don't know how beyond that they're involved. I think that might have been kind of the beginning of our relationship with them. One of our goals, one of our strategic goals as an organization is to have a better presence in the other communities that we serve, because we do want to emphasize that we're serving people who are not just from Elizabethtown, but the surrounding communities as well. So that is something that we have been making progress on, but I'm not sure how involved we are with the other clubs. Yes.
When I became a pastor in E-Town in '97, in the ministerium, we would always talk about all the people that came to our door, wanting gas, wanting transportation, wanting a whole lot of different things. And we would talk about the issue that was going around each church. And we weren't social workers, we had other things to do. And here was this carload of people with a mom with kids and need this. And Echoes, well, the Echoes thing is a coordinated effort. We have a place for you to go to handle this whole raft of things of needs. How's that working? I mean, we think it's working out, but I haven't been related to pastors since '06. How's it going?
I think it's going well. Like I said, we've had more tough discussions about when to say no. I think just much like your mindset, people are well intended to say, let's send people to the professionals. But there are absolutely people who come to us that we don't have professional experience with. So, for example, we are not a domestic violence provider. Working with people who are experiencing active domestic violence require a certain level of confidentiality that we are not held to. There are certain security factors to keep in mind that we don't have the ability to implement at our shelter. We have kids on campus. So, there are certain families and certain circumstances where we are not the expert and we would be making referrals. So I think it's working well. I think it's also our job to educate the community on where our expertise ends, and we lean on our support. So that's why the community partnerships and the that we have with other providers are also very key to our success. Yes.
Over the years, Rotary's helped a lot with Echoes. So when we put out a call for help, these are the people that we are helping. We have worked in the clothing, sorting through clothing. We've moved furniture. We painted the paint upstairs. We cleaned up the commercial kitchen, got things unpacked, put together the cots in the big room, and now over there. Those are the ones that I can remember.
Also in 2021, the global grant district grant, we provided the washers, dryers.
Yes.
Down below.
Mm-hmm.
And part with the resource center.
Yes, the Enrichment Center.
Enrichment Center.
Yeah. We have your little plaque right outside. Yeah.
So when we put out a plea for help, when they need help, please, we've done all sorts of things over there, so it'd be really nice if you did sign up.
And that goes a long way because we have a very small staff. Right now, fully staffed, we have 10 who serve 850 households annually. So to get projects like that done that you helped with, I would have had to close the office, which means that people aren't being served. There's times that it's unavoidable that we have to do those things to coordinate a large project, but being able to let the staff continue to worry about serving the people and me being able to manage the backside and get community support while doing it is huge for us. So it's so much more valuable than you probably even know.
On that note, we had 17 on Saturday, and we were there for 4 hours, and minus Glenn being late, and coffee and donut time. With the number of people that we had for the amount of time we worked, we did about 60 hours worth of work. So that's a week and a half for one person.
Yeah.
Put all that stuff together to do that.
They would have committed suicide anyways.
I always was working with you.
I built one dresser for there, and that took me like 2 hours. So thank you so much. Yes.
Well, now I know right. Deb sits in the middle. People get to see her hand right
Oh,
there.
I'm sorry.
You have to be loud to sit in the middle with next to no.
Yes, do it.
Along the lines of expertise, I know like for the years that I knew that it existed and the call for volunteers, the first thing I think of is I'm not equipped to manage people that that's just my immediate thought. And I'm sure I'm not alone.
Yeah.
So I've always been curious, like what's the dynamic? You put 20, 30, 40 people in a big room with no walls. What is that like? Because, immediately that's where my vision goes and I think, oh my gosh, how do they get along? How is it quiet? How would I respond to somebody freaking out over something? Like, what is that like?
So I have a few different points that I want to touch on. One thing that I'm really proud of about our shelter is how much time we've spent making it trauma informed for that reason. So when people come to shelter, whether it's their first time or their fifth time, it's traumatic. To be homeless is traumatic. And then you have people who may have mental illness. They may be actively in addiction. So you put all that together and you're like, okay, this is something's going to blow. But there's things that we do specifically to try to avoid that. So some things as simple as making sure that each bed has an outlet between it so that people aren't fighting over charging their phone. There's no fighting over resources. Putting shampoo, conditioner, those items that you wouldn't even think to need, so that people don't have to ask for them, so that we're, thinking about what it's like to really be that vulnerable and not have resources available to you. Same with food. We try to make it as minimal asking for basic needs as possible by having round tables in the dining room. So we're promoting people being social to each other, and we don't have long rectangle tables like you would see in a prison, because it's not a prison. So there's all these very small details that we think about, that somebody, it might be blind to their eye coming in. So that is something that we think about, and try to implement. Having a de-escalation room. We have a little room that is the only private space in shelter. So if somebody is escalated, we can just say, hey, why don't you go, have a few moments in there. You can color. We have all types of resources available in there. We have a beanbag chair to try to make it more comfortable. And then the other part of that is, I think you would be surprised what the interactions are like. So I have brought my family in and they've had similar concerns. And I said, just talk to people like they're people. Some people may not be oriented in reality. Just sit there with them. Be in that moment. Talk about, what it is that they are experiencing. A lot of the times people really aren't violent or a threat. And if they are, we have staff there. And they know how to handle it or de-escalate a situation. And if it's not de-escalated, to call the police, who we are very familiar with and are familiar with us. So I have been there many times and I've never felt uncomfortable.
So what does the volunteer do that stays overnight?
Sleep.
But they're there for.
And if there's an emergency, which an emergency for us would be like a medical emergency, or if somebody gets escorted by the police, so the police pick somebody up, they're homeless, they run their background checks, make sure that they're generally safe, and then bring them in. But beyond that, they're really there to sleep, be a backup if needed, but it doesn't happen frequently.
Sean, didn't Peggy do overnights there?
Yeah, she has in the past. Peggy Grabowski.
Yeah.
It's high, by the way. Yeah, she's done overnight, but fortunately, it hasn't been needed as much for volunteers to do overnights. No, you just said that. I don't know.
So we also have had to bring more PRN staff on to fill in the gaps. So that's another adjustment we've made. We have more staff than we've ever had before, which I think is needed because we also have more complex needs. So to make people feel comfortable, I mean, this used to be completely volunteer run, but the needs are just so much greater, especially post-COVID. So I do think that it's crucial that we have staffing there for the safety and comfort of everyone. And so we've responded with that. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.